If I asked most people to envision a mass shooter in their heads, I bet they would picture a younger man who lives in his parents' basement, who's jobless, doesn't have a girlfriend, failure to launch. But it's not true. The most likely person to become a mass shooter is a war vet. This video showcases two of them. What makes a person go on a mass shooting? Well, it's usually frustration and a feeling of being disrespected. And Army vets, they're primed for that because they have unrealistic expectations in their heads. They believe that they're above the average person. They joined the military and they made their sacrifices, right? I mean, what was Starship Troopers all about? The difference between civilians and citizens. Citizens get to vote, civilians don't in that made up world. Why? Because they have to promise something to get guys to join. Right? Now, we'll get into the beginning of this.
I wanted to give you the latest on two really heartbreaking shootings that happened over the last couple of days, and police say disturbed war veterans were responsible for both.
There you go. Disturbed war veterans.
In Michigan, 4 people were killed and 8 hurt after a man shot up the Mormon church and then set the church on fire.
Now, that's an interesting fact. Why do I point that out? Right? Why? Because it's the Mormon church. Why? Because there was some clown, this guy in particular, that claimed that immigrants were the biggest cause of mass shootings. In other words, foreign men. When they say immigrants, that's what they mean. Foreign men, the outgroup, right? But if there's no outgroup of men to blame, they find an in-group of men to blame. In this case, it was the Mormon church. Is the Mormon church immigrants? No, they're made up of people who have been around for generations in the United States, right? But anyway, we'll get into the description of this mass shooter.
Of Sanford's truck, he rammed into the church. It had two big American flags behind the cab and a set of deer antlers attached to the bumper. The picture was all over X today.
Yeah, he's got American flags. So you can't say he's anti-American, can you?
The New York Post reports that a Facebook post by Sanford's mother, I believe it said that the gunman who died at the scene in the shootout with cops had served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. He was a Marine Corps veteran. And there was a Marine Corps spokesperson who spoke to CNN who said that Sanford served as a sergeant, received several medals for his service.
There you go, guys. You say he went to war like a good little boy. He gained his medals, which don't really mean anything. They're not worth anything. And so he thought he was a somebody. And this is the issue I have with men who join the military overall, is that they don't want to be the ordinary guy that they are, even though they are. Again, I mean, again, it shows you like Starship Troopers again. Everyone joined the military because they didn't want to be just the nobody, the powerless nobody, right? But the thing is, these guys are hoping to gain status, but they don't. The guy was a lousy sergeant. Sergeant, what do they call you guys? They call you grunts. They may as well call you swine. You have to be an officer at the very least. And you want to be up there. You want to be like a colonel or a general. You don't want to be like second lieutenant. So you remained a nobody.
And his service went on from 2004 to 2008. He was deployed during Operation Iraqi Freedom. for several months, starting in the summer of 2007. There are also social media accounts linked to Sanford's family that show that he was married with at least one child.
He was married with at least one child. So this guy gained it, right? He didn't fail you to launch. He launched big time. He went and served his country and put himself in danger and gained his medals and gained the validation of a woman. And he got that family, that child, right? Still, he's disgruntled, right? Because in the end, he's still a nobody. Sanford, you go to war so the rich people in your country become richer. That's what you are.
He had a young son, and this is sad. According to a GoFundMe page, this is from back in 2015. The family was in need of donations to help pay for the medical care of Sanford's son, who was born with a rare genetic disorder. So just
Well, there you go. GoFundMe. Their son was in trouble. And where was the military for them, right? Like, again, that's why metals are useless. They're just hunks of metal. When they really needed the military was, hey, my son is in trouble. We can't afford the bills. Come pay them. And then the military is like, hey, dude, you're gone now. You got everything you can out of us. Right? So that's the reason in this case I bet. I can't say for a fact, but I would bet money that this guy got frustrated over that. That he actually gave in to the sucker image that him being a citizen meant something. He's not like the rest of us losers. He's a somebody, but he turned out to be a nobody. And all his sacrifices didn't mean shit. Now, this is the other thing, if I haven't mentioned it before. The reason why I talked about the guy's failure to launch is because those guys can be demonized. Look at this. Incels and terrorism, sexual deprivation, I know I mucked up the word, as a security threat. See, they can take the nobodies, the non-military guys, and they can demonize them. They know incels won't fight back or cause any problems, or at least they don't think they will. So they make a perfect punching bag. But the thing is, how can they do it to this guy and then have young guys join the military? Like if you were thinking about joining the military and you saw military vets being put under the terrorist category, why would you ever join? You wouldn't, would you? Anyway, okay, let's get to the next shooter. Let's see around here.
So he is now charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. It was 5 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 5 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. And unlike the situation in Michigan, he is alive, and obviously more charges could be added. I would suspect more charges likely will be added. Police say that he used an assault rifle. And again, like the situation in Michigan, authorities say that Edge is a combat veteran. They say that he was injured in the line of duty and suffers from PTSD.
So he did exactly what is expected to do. He went to war. He took his bullet. It damaged him mentally. And what happened to him? How come the military wasn't looking after him? Right? Because once they're done with you, you are just cannon fodder. They dust your hands.
This is bizarre, but he had filed these lawsuits against the town and police department over the last few years. And it seems like he was well known to authorities, sort of like one of those guys that had been causing trouble with these lawsuits, and police officers had seen him around. According
So they know he was mentally ill, and it wasn't their problem, right?
to the New York Post, one lawsuit filed against a church He filed it against a church claiming that they were behind a civil conspiracy. That's the way he phrased it, a civil conspiracy by the LGBTQ community and white supremacist pedophiles to kill him because he is a straight man. That's what he put into the lawsuit.
There you go. See, like they also don't address this, right? Feminism invaded, the LGBT and turned them into attack dogs to men. And they would race bait these guys. They would attack him for being a white male when really it's just the fact that he is male. And of course, being a stupid tradcon, these guys would fall for it every time. They'd say they're hating me because I am white, right? So of course he has a beef with the LGBT because it's feminist run. A hate movement against men is running it. And so these guys get under attack, they become mentally ill, and then they go berserk. Right? And don't think that this is a one-off, guys. Now look, this is an old video, but 4 years ago, this young woman in Britain, Sarah Everhard, she was murdered by a guy, and they tried to make a curfew for all men using that excuse. That's in England. Now, that should have been a giant wake-up call for guys around the world, but guys always go to sleep, right? They just say, oh, that's crazy, and then they forget about it tomorrow. But that's just like the incels, right? Sexual deprivation as a security threat, right? They're always out to get men. Always. Sorry, deprivation. Finally, I said it right. But do you see the point I'm making here? Societies worldwide do not care about men and never did. And so men think that they're going to gain something. They want to gain status so it doesn't happen to them. They get promised status, right? Like they did in the movies, and it didn't happen. So they go nuts and go on in a shooting spree. And again, war vets are more likely to do it because they believe they were promised something. Whereas the incel guys weren't promised anything. So there's a sense of betrayal here that the average guy lacks, that non-war vets lack, right? So these guys are the most likely to become mass shooters, right? They have the most reason to become, to feel betrayed and become resentful. But again, you can't label them as terrorists because they want you guys to join. The war machine's always going and they need new suckers. Anyway, I said everything I need to say about this.